gonna get you in the driveway in 1 second.
And been searched, but
Six coming out.
it's coming out.
One more out.
Police, DEA, search warrant! DEA, police, search warrant! Police, police, search warrant! Police, search warrant!
Marijuana. Very frequently, he was also responsible, we believe, for up to 60 homicides in the United States and in Mexico. Hugo Villarreal, Jose Rodriguez, and Roberto Lopez Rivera, all three are charged with the federal death penalty statute as well as CCE charges, operating a continuing criminal enterprise. They did expand beyond San Antonio, as you can see, to Atlanta and several other cities. Just one note on Hugo Villarreal. Typically, he would order his killings on days, special occasions. One of the murders is of this gentleman here, 1997. He was at his daughter's wedding in San Antonio, Texas. He was lured out of the reception hall by Hugo Villarreal and was executed by two assassins. This just shows you a number of individuals that have been arrested, some of the more significant ones in the United States this morning. It ranges from truck drivers to transportation coordinators, stash house and warehouse operators, domestic cell heads, as well as workers for those cells and some customers. This is the domestic activity that has occurred thus far during Operation Marquis. Again, moving from the transit point in Laredo through Texas up to several well-defined distribution cells in places like Tulsa and Little Rock, Wichita, Kansas, and Atlanta. We saw a number of different ways that the narcotics were transported around the country, as I've already mentioned. The tractor trailer that you see there was stopped in Little Rock, Arkansas, with approximately 1,000 kilograms of cocaine. Can you go back one? The pickup truck was 253 kilograms of cocaine seized up in Chicago. And in Charlotte, North Carolina, they would frequently use vehicles with concealed compartments to transport smaller quantities, 10, 15 kilograms at a time. This secret compartment was in the wheel wells of the vehicle. Money coming back down, as I mentioned, tractor trailers that would bring up drugs would bring money back down into Mexico. This here, $1.8 million, concealed in a secret compartment in the frame of the trailer, intercepted by law enforcement in Pennsylvania. This seizure, 564 kilograms of cocaine, seized from a tractor trailer that left Mexico, specifically Laredo, and was seized by law enforcement up in New Jersey. As I said before, they piecemeal across 40, 50 kilograms of cocaine at a time. It got piecemealed across to this house in Laredo, Texas. Seized by law enforcement, 1,287 kilograms of cocaine in a house in one room in Laredo, Texas. That was seized from the same house in a room adjacent to the cocaine. $3.6 million being repackaged to be transshipped down to the paper plant in Monterey. Over 27,000 pounds of marijuana was seized during the course of Operation Marquis. This here, a seizure that occurred in San Antonio, Texas. They had about 520 pounds in the residence, as you can see, in a number of different locations in a garbage pail. They had a little over $600,000 in several coolers in the residence. As of yesterday, these were the seizures and arrests that occurred during Operation Marquis in these 27 cities that you see up there. Little over 8,700 kilograms of cocaine, 2.25 kilograms of heroin, over 27,000 pounds of marijuana. As you can see, 50 pounds of meth and a small amount of crack cocaine. Over $12 million in cash, and 185 arrests have occurred as of yesterday. As you've heard today, we've provided a great deal of information to our counterparts in Mexico. They are attempting to execute arrest and search warrants at this time. We are seeking provisional arrest warrants for 14 individuals. Today at 6 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, hundreds of law enforcement officers from around the country are executing approximately 171 arrest warrants in these cities that you see. In addition, several search warrants and approximately 10 arrest warrants we're anticipating in Mexico.
Okay, at this point, we'd be happy to take your questions. If you could just do me a favor and state your name and affiliation before you ask your question, and then we'll have these gentlemen answer it for you. Ms. Lymore, please.
They were particularly innovative. Can you describe some of the ways that make them more innovative than some of the other drug operations that y'all have worked?
Well, in this particular case, they used commerce industry down, particularly in the Laredo area. As many of you may know, Laredo is one of the busiest ports of entry for commercial traffic. Estimates over 1.2 million vehicles and trucks enter the Fort Bridges on an annual basis. So this particular organization not only operated under cover of heavy commercial traffic, they also used the warehouses that you saw, like Rod mentioned. One was a distributor, major distributor for Corona beer. The Temez warehouse is a freight forwarding type warehouse. So they used legitimate industry, both on the U.S. side of the border and in Mexico with the paper plant, to help move both narcotics and money.
John Rutherford, NBC. How much is this operation a change in the level of cooperation with the Mexican government?
Well, I guess the best way to answer the cooperation level with the Mexican government, I think from DEA standpoint, I think it would be safe to say that we're extremely encouraged by the latest developments that the Mexicans have taken most recently, in one example with the extradition of Kiki Paez to San Diego, the arrest of the former governor out of Cancun, the arrest of Magana, and their commitment, and it's also been well publicized as to their commitment to attack corruption on their side of the border. So I think with the signals that we've seen here recently, most recently with those types of enforcement operations that they've conducted on the other side of the border, and our ability to share this information today with them, I think that goes a long way in a positive sense from DEA's perspective. And I also might add, this investigation also, on the U.S. side, when we were conducting the investigation, we, as you heard a lot of the speakers earlier, that this is a continuum of investigations. In other words, SOD that's how we do business. We constantly reevaluate information that has come to light on past operations, and this is indicative of that. When we passed information to Mexico on this operation, this was an operation or an investigation that they had investigated in 1997 and 1998 as it pertains to the paper plant, and that's how Alcides Ramon Magana became such a critical target in this investigation. It's a long answer to say we're very hopeful that our relationship will be able to continue with the Mexicans.
Is this a big change from the past?
We've, in the past, we've always worked with Mexico and passed information, and they've acted on it in their own way. I would say yes. We pass this information well in advance of any operation in the United States in hopes, and I think it'll prove out in the end that they would be able to take this information and apply it, like I said, to ongoing investigations in their country.
Sandra Vergara from Colombia, RCN Television. I would like to know more about the connection between Mexican traffickers were arrested and Colombian drug dealers.
As you saw in the PowerPoint demonstration, Rod alluded to the fact that two major Colombian traffickers, Henao and Montoya, were a link to this particular group. As he also mentioned, Martinez, the owner of the paper plant, was a Colombian. The investigation that I talked about that the Mexicans conducted, and we were working jointly with them in 97, 98, was targeted specifically, like I said, the paper plant and the Casa de Cambios that are affiliated with that paper plant, and they were linked to Bernal Madrigal, Juvenal at the time. There are Colombians associated with that paper plant, and as Rod said, the cocaine was moving up from Colombia. They would use that paper plant to mask it, and it would be unloaded in the paper plant and moved across the border. Paper plant was also used to receive the money or the proceeds that were developed in the United States and then shipped back down to Colombia. So the link between the Mexican and the Colombian traffickers goes back into the Juvenal, or as we refer to it, Operation Millennium, and that we worked jointly with the Colombian National Police in 96, 97, and 98. So it's almost a continuation of the same organizations that were involved at that time.
In the past, the Mexican police have been implicated in many of these drug operations. What evidence do you have this time that there is corruption among Mexican officials, and do you have any Mexican police being arrested?
As we talked, there's no charges, no arrest warrants that we've provided at this time to the Mexican authorities charging any officers there. As you're aware and as you refer to, any type of investigation this large on both sides of the border, there's going to be allegations both against corrupt officials on either side. Any information that we have related to any officers in Mexico, we're going to pass to the Mexican authorities, and any information relative to any officers on this side of the border, certainly all the agencies involved with the prosecutors are going to act on it.
Are there any?
There's nobody being charged at this time.
My name is Tony Pugh. I'm with Night Ritter Newspapers. I wanted to know, again, what the total number of murders that you all estimate were committed in connection with this ring, and in terms of size, how this organization ranks with what you feel are the number, in terms of its size of ongoing drug operations in the country. How is it the biggest, smallest? I mean, what are we looking at here?
As you heard in the San Antonio, where they're being charged with capital murder, we estimate about 60 murders in that particular area. as was referred to in the briefing, you saw many local impact organizations that we were able to bring together and show the relationship either through cell head connections, transporters, back through the command control, back into Mexico. How does this range? As Mr. Ferguson referred to, we take this operation and tie it back into previous operations like Millennium, which was so successfully worked with the Colombian government. We've had other operations that we've worked in the past with connections with Alcide Magana, where he's been indicted, as well as tying him into this investigation, the Carrillo-Fuentes. What this means is that we're continuing to come after them with long-term, very complex investigations that involves working together with many agencies, both federally and state and local, and prosecutors both federally and state here in the United States, as well as in foreign countries. So we learn from each investigation. And as Mr. Ferguson referred to, then we move forward. Based on the lady's comment about the Colombians, we're already working with our Colombian counterparts with any information we get from this investigation to go forward. So we send a message from these cases, those who may be out there that think they got away this time, we're ready, we'll be looking for them and to keep moving forward against them in time.
How big a dent did this operation make in the cocaine trade?
I think it made a huge dent in Cleveland, Ohio, Austin, Texas, San Antonio, Texas, Charlotte, North Carolina. If you're asking me if Vicente Carrillo-Fuentes is worried about his bank account, no. But I think, and that's what the beauty of these types of operations are, at least what I take great pride in, and I think the agency does. We don't just focus on the major traffickers that are living in Mexico and Colombia. Sure, they're important, and we have to attack and do the best we can, but we also look towards the local impact, as we would refer to it, those types of investigations that affect the quality of life in those communities, and try and tie it all together. We just don't ignore it. So in answer to your question, I think it had a huge impact on a local level, especially in those cities, and I think it has a disruptive impact on an international level. You can, if you go back and study the operations that we've been involved in, you'll see that we've moved from Southern California to Brownsville, Texas, and now back into Laredo. So I think we have a disruptive effect to the trafficking organizations, which causes them to change their trafficking techniques, and that does cost money. And their people are going, and their main cell heads or their managers domestically are going to jail. And I think ultimately what every foreign-based trafficker fears is extradition back to the United States, and that's the ultimate goal. And that has worked with our counterparts in Colombia. We've done very well with them, and we're hoping to improve upon that in Mexico. And I think we started a step forward with the extradition of Kiki Paez, and I hope it can continue.
Anna Stolle, Bloomberg News. Could you go over the numbers again, the total arrests, the arrests this morning, and then any arrests later today?
As of yesterday, there were 185 individuals arrested in 27 cities. And prior to today, law enforcement has seized a little over $12 million in cash, 8,700 kilograms of cocaine, and about 27,000 pounds of marijuana. As of today, there were 171 arrest warrants being executed in the U.S., and 81 people are in custody from those.